When you look at your blood pressure monitor and see a number that is much higher than usual, your first instinct is likely fear. You might feel a tightness in your chest, your thoughts might race to the worst-case scenario, and you might feel the urge to immediately rush to the emergency room or take an extra pill. But reacting with panic is often the very thing that pushes that number even higher, creating a cycle that is difficult to break. Before you reach for the phone or your medication cabinet, there are specific physiological steps you must take to ensure that the number you are seeing is real, and to help your body naturally regulate itself if it is a temporary spike. I'm Dr. Ben Harris, and today I am going to walk you through exactly what to do, step by step, the moment you see a blood pressure reading that scares you. Most people do the right thing, but they do it in the wrong sequence. They try to fix the number before they have confirmed the accuracy of the reading, or they try to force their body to calm down using their mind, which rarely works when adrenaline is already pumping. If you try to lower your blood pressure without first resetting the conditions in your body, you are fighting an uphill battle. The methods I'm going to share with you are designed to work with your aging physiology, not against it. We are going to start with the physical environment, move to your internal nervous system, and then look at what you have consumed. There is one specific technique involving your breathing that serves as a master switch for your blood vessels, but it only works if you have set up the foundation first. I'll show you the strongest one after you understand the setup. The very first thing you must do when you see a high number is to question the reading, not your health. This is not about denial. It is about scientific accuracy. In adults over the age of 60, our arteries are naturally stiffer than they were in our 30s or 40s. This stiffness makes our blood pressure readings much more sensitive to body position, movement, and muscle tension. A reading taken immediately after walking into a room or while sitting in a slouched position can be artificially inflated by 10, 20, or even 30 points. We call this a fake high, and treating a fake high as a medical emergency leads to unnecessary panic and unnecessary medication. Let me tell you about Arthur. Arthur is 72 years old, and he takes great pride in his garden. One afternoon, he came inside after pruning his hedges for about an hour. He felt a little flushed, which is normal after physical activity, but he decided to check his blood pressure just to be safe. He sat down at his kitchen table, strapped on the cuff immediately, and pressed the button. The monitor whirred to life, squeezed his arm, and displayed a reading of 160/95. Arthur was terrified. His usual top number was around 130. Seeing a 160 made him think he was on the verge of a stroke. He immediately sat stiffer, his heart began to race, and he took the reading again right away. This time it was 168/98. The panic set in. He called my office in a state of high distress. Here is what went wrong for Arthur. He did not give his cardiovascular system time to return to its baseline before asking it for a measurement. When you are moving, your heart pumps harder to supply your muscles with oxygen. Your blood pressure should be higher when you are gardening. That is a sign your heart is working correctly. When you sit down, it takes time for that pressure to settle. By measuring instantly, Arthur wasn't measuring his resting blood pressure. He was measuring his active blood pressure. The zero reset is the protocol you must use to ensure the number is real. If you see a high number, or if you have just been active, you must enter a period of absolute stillness. Here is how you do it. You need to find a chair with a firm back. Do not use a soft sofa or a recliner where your hips sink lower than your knees, as this compresses the abdomen and can restrict blood flow, artificially raising the reading. Sit in the firm chair with your feet flat on the floor. This is crucial. Crossing your legs at the knees or ankles can raise your systolic pressure, the top number, by up to 8 to 10 points. Your back must be supported. If you have to use your core muscles to hold yourself upright, that muscle tension translates to higher blood pressure. Slide your hips back until your spine rests against the chair. Now, place your arm on a table so that the cuff is at the same level as your heart. If your arm is dangling at your side, the weight of the blood in the limb can skew the reading. If the arm is too high, it can read falsely low. Level with the heart is the golden rule. Once you are in this position, you must wait. You cannot press the button yet. You need to wait for 5 full minutes. This is the zero reset. During these 5 minutes, you are allowing your heart rate to slow down, you are allowing the blood vessels in your legs to relax, and you are allowing the fluids in your body to settle. Arthur learned to do this. The next time he came in from the garden, he poured a glass of water, sat in his firm dining chair, and simply watched the birds out the window for 5 minutes. When he finally pressed the button, his reading was 135/85. Still slightly elevated from the activity, but nowhere near the danger zone he thought he was in. This simple pause acts as a filter. It filters out the noise of daily life so you can see what your heart is actually doing. It saves you from the adrenaline spike of a false alarm. If you are currently monitoring your pressure at home, I would love to know what is normal for you so we can see the variety in our community. Comment your age and your usual top number range below. It helps others realize they aren't alone. Now that you are seated correctly and have verified that the reading might be real, you need a way to intervene immediately if the number is still high. 2. The exhale technique. Once you have confirmed that your blood pressure is indeed elevated, or if you are feeling the physical symptoms of stress and anxiety, you have a tool available to you that acts faster than any pill. It is your breath. However, most people breathe incorrectly when they are stressed. When we see a high number on the monitor, our natural reaction is to gasp or take short, shallow breaths into our chest. This type of breathing signals your sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response, to kick into gear. It tells your brain that there is a threat. Your brain responds by tightening your blood vessels to divert blood to your muscles. When you tighten a tube that has liquid flowing through it, the pressure inside that tube goes up. So, by panicking and breathing shallowly, you are physically causing your blood pressure to rise. To reverse this, we have to engage the opposing system, the parasympathetic nervous system. This is the rest and digest system. The switch for this system is the exhale. Let's look at Martha's story. Martha is 68 years old. She has always been a bit of a worrier, especially regarding her health. One evening, she felt a bit of a headache and decided to check her pressure. It was 155/90. She gasped. She thought, "Oh no, it's happening." She immediately felt hot. Her breathing became rapid. She waited only 30 seconds and took it again. 165/95. She was caught in a panic loop. The fear of the number was driving the number up, which caused more fear. She came to see me because she was convinced her medication had stopped working. But her medication was fine. Her nervous system was overreacting. I taught Martha the exhale technique, and it is something you can do right now, sitting in your chair. The focus is not on taking a deep breath in. The focus is on a long, slow breath out. Here is the calm, step-by-step method. You are sitting in your zero reset position. Close your eyes. Inhale gently through your nose for a count of 4. Do not force it. Just a normal, comfortable breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, purse your lips slightly as if you are blowing out a candle very slowly or cooling a spoonful of hot soup. Exhale through your mouth for a count of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The magic happens in that long exhale. When you extend your exhale to be longer than your inhale, you physically stimulate the vagus nerve. This nerve runs from your brain down to your abdomen, and it touches the heart. When stimulated, it releases acetylcholine, a substance that acts like a natural brake pedal for your heart rate and tells your blood vessels to relax and widen. Martha tried this. The next time she saw a number that was 150, she didn't retest immediately. She sat back. She closed her eyes. She did the 4 in, 8 out breathing for 2 minutes. She felt her shoulders drop. She felt her hands unclench. When she opened her eyes and pressed the button on her monitor again, the reading was 138/88. The emergency was gone. This technique is powerful because it gives you control. You are not a victim of the number on the screen. You have a physical lever you can pull to lower it. It is safe for almost everyone, but if you ever feel lightheaded while breathing deeply, just return to your normal breathing rhythm. This supports steadier readings and helps you distinguish between a true medical issue and a stress reaction. Before we move to the next item, a quick reminder. If you are finding these practical tips helpful, please consider subscribing. It helps this information reach other seniors who might be struggling with the same anxiety. 3. The water glass protocol. We have addressed your body position and your nervous system. Now we must look at the quality of the blood itself, specifically the viscosity or thickness of your blood. As we age, our sense of thirst diminishes. You might not feel thirsty even when your body is mildly dehydrated. When you are dehydrated, your blood volume decreases, but the blood itself becomes thicker and more concentrated. Think of it like trying to pump water through a hose versus trying to pump syrup. The heart has to work much harder to push thicker blood through your vessels. This increased effort translates directly to higher blood pressure. This is a very common cause of unexplained spikes in the afternoon for older adults. You might start the day fine, but if you haven't consumed enough fluids by 2 p.m. or 3 p.m., your pressure begins to creep up. James is a perfect example of this. James is 75. He loves his morning coffee. He would have 2 cups of black coffee with breakfast, and then he would get busy with his woodworking in the garage. He wouldn't drink anything else until dinner. He started noticing that his blood pressure was consistently higher in the late afternoon, often hovering around 155/85, while his morning readings were perfect. He thought he needed an afternoon dose of medication. I asked him to track his water intake. It turned out, aside from the coffee, which can be a mild diuretic, causing you to lose fluid, he was drinking almost nothing. His blood was simply too thick. The water glass protocol is a simple, immediate action you can take when you notice a spike, provided you do not have a medical restriction on fluid intake. If you check your pressure and it is high, and you know you haven't had much water today, go to the kitchen. Pour a standard 8-ounce glass of water. It is best if the water is room temperature, not ice cold. Ice-cold water can sometimes cause a slight shock to the system, causing the vagus nerve to react unpredictably or the stomach to cramp. Room temperature water is absorbed easily. Drink the glass of water slowly. Do not gulp it down. Gulping can introduce air and cause bloating, which puts pressure on the diaphragm and can be uncomfortable. Take your time, finishing the glass over the course of a minute or two. Then, wait. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes for that fluid to be absorbed and to begin helping with your blood volume and viscosity. James made this change. He started drinking a glass of water at 10 a.m. and another at 2 p.m. The afternoon spikes stopped completely. His heart didn't have to work as hard to circulate his blood. Now, a very important safety note here. This advice applies to most seniors, but if you have been diagnosed with congestive heart failure or kidney failure and your doctor has you on a strict fluid restriction, you must follow your doctor's orders. Do not drink extra water without their approval, as your body may struggle to process the excess fluid. For the majority of us, however, hydration is the forgotten medicine. This simple habit helps keep your blood flowing smoothly, preventing those resistance-based spikes. 4. The potassium balance. Sometimes a blood pressure spike is not about stress or hydration, but about a chemical imbalance in your last meal. We hear a lot about sodium. We know that salt holds water. When you eat a high sodium meal, your body holds onto fluid to dilute that salt. This extra fluid increases the volume of blood in your system, increasing the pressure in your arteries. However, many seniors focus entirely on cutting salt and forget the other half of the equation, potassium. Potassium is the mineral that tells your kidneys to get rid of sodium. It relaxes the walls of your blood vessels. If you have too much sodium and not enough potassium, your blood pressure will rise. If you increase your potassium, you help your body flush out the excess sodium and lower the pressure naturally. Eleanor, who is 70, came to me confused. She said, "I don't use the salt shaker. I don't understand why my pressure is up tonight." We looked at what she ate. She had a bowl of canned tomato soup and a grilled cheese sandwich for lunch. While she didn't add salt, the canned soup and the cheese were loaded with hidden sodium. Her body was holding on to fluid, and she didn't have enough potassium in her system to flush it out. When you see a mild spike and you realize you may have eaten something salty earlier in the day, perhaps a ham sandwich, some pizza, or a processed frozen meal, Your immediate lever is to introduce potassium. You do not need a supplement. In fact, potassium supplements can be dangerous if not prescribed. You need food. The action step here is to eat a small, potassium-rich snack. A banana is the most famous example, and it is excellent. It is soft, easy to chew, and easy to digest. Half an avocado is another powerhouse of potassium. A few slices of cantaloupe or a small cup of yogurt are also good sources. For Eleanor, we adjusted her routine. If she decided to have a meal that was higher in sodium, she would pair it with a banana or a side of steamed spinach. On the day she noticed the spike, she ate a banana and drank her water, and within an hour her body began to regulate. The potassium signaled her kidneys to release the sodium through her urine, and her blood pressure came down. By using food as a tool, you are addressing the root cause of the spike, the chemical imbalance, rather than just worrying about the number. Be cautious, however. Just like with water, if you have advanced kidney disease, your kidneys may not be able to filter potassium well. In that case, you must avoid high potassium foods unless your doctor says otherwise. Always check your specific dietary restrictions. This supports a chemical balance in your blood that naturally favors lower pressure. We have covered the immediate fixes, correcting your position to avoid fake highs, using your breath to calm the nervous system, hydrating to thin the blood, and using potassium to flush out sodium. These are the tools you use in the moment. But what about preventing the spikes from happening in the first place? What about the connection between your blood pressure and your blood sugar? Often, these two issues are linked in ways that doctors don't have time to explain during a short visit. There is a specific bridge between high sugar and high pressure that affects many people over 60, and understanding it can change your health completely. There is also the matter of your environment, the invisible stressors in your living room that are keeping your numbers high without you realizing it. And there is a specific way to walk inside your home that lowers pressure, and a specific way to arrange your pillows at night. We need to discuss how to stabilize your system for the long term so that you don't have to use these emergency fixes every day. Part 2 begins right here. 5. The sugar connection. It is impossible to talk about blood pressure stability in older adults without talking about blood sugar. They are intimately connected. High blood sugar causes inflammation in the blood vessel walls. Over time, this makes the vessels stiff and inelastic. When your vessels cannot stretch, your blood pressure rises. But there is an immediate connection too. When your blood sugar spikes after a meal, your body releases insulin. High levels of insulin can cause your kidneys to retain sodium. As we just learned, retaining sodium raises blood pressure, so a sugar spike can often look like a blood pressure spike. Robert is 65. He was very diligent about his blood pressure medication. He took it every morning. Yet, he noticed that every evening around 7 p.m., his face would feel hot and his pressure would be up. He couldn't figure out why. He wasn't stressed, and he wasn't eating salty food. He was, however, eating a large bowl of white rice or pasta for dinner, followed by a sweet dessert. He didn't have diagnosed diabetes, so he never checked his sugar. But that high carbohydrate load was causing a massive sugar spike. His body was flooding with insulin, his kidneys were holding onto salt, and his blood pressure was reacting. The mistake Robert made was treating the blood pressure as an isolated problem. He kept asking for more blood pressure pills when what he needed was to manage his carbohydrate intake. The action here is to become a detective of your own patterns. If you notice your blood pressure is consistently high after meals, look at what you are eating. Is it high in sugar or refined flour? I advised Robert to make a simple switch. I asked him to eat his protein and vegetables first, before touching the rice or potatoes. We call this food sequencing. By eating the fiber and protein first, you slow down the absorption of sugar into your bloodstream. Robert tried this. He had his chicken and broccoli first, then a smaller portion of rice. He skipped the sugary dessert and had a few berries instead. The result was remarkable. Because his blood sugar remained stable, his insulin levels stayed lower, his kidneys functioned better, and his evening blood pressure spike disappeared. This is a simple bridge. You don't need to be diabetic to be sensitive to sugar. If you are struggling to control your blood pressure, try reducing the sugary and starchy foods in your evening meal and see if your numbers stabilize. This supports the overall health of your blood vessels and prevents the chemical chain reaction that leads to high pressure. One easy way to check this connection is to look at your timing. If the spike happens 30 to 60 minutes after eating, sugar is a likely suspect. 6. The silent environment. We live in a noisy world. Even if you live alone, your environment might be screaming at your nervous system. Many seniors have the television on for company. They watch the news, which is designed to be alarming and stimulating. They have the radio on. They have bright lights. Your nervous system is constantly processing this sensory input. Even if you think you are relaxing in front of the TV, if the news is reporting on a crisis, your subconscious mind perceives a threat. Your heart rate increases slightly and your blood pressure rises. Linda, 74, was a news junkie. She watched the cable news channel from 5 p.m. until she went to bed. She also took her blood pressure during the commercial breaks. She consistently got high readings. She told me, "Dr. Ben, my pressure is always high at night." I asked her to describe her environment. She told me about the news. I explained to her that she was measuring her body's reaction to the news, not her resting state. The action step here is to create a sensory deprivation zone for the 10 minutes surrounding your measurement. This does not mean you have to live in silence all day, but when it is time to check your health or when you are trying to lower a spike, you must turn off the input. Turn off the TV, mute the phone. If there are bright overhead lights, turn them off and use a softer lamp. Linda agreed to an experiment. She turned off the TV at 6 p.m. She sat in silence for 10 minutes, maybe reading a gentle book or just looking out the window. Then she took her pressure. Her systolic number dropped by 15 points compared to when she took it while watching the news. Her blood pressure wasn't naturally high. Her environment was keeping her in a state of low-grade alert. For many of you, simply turning off the noise is the most effective medicine you can take. Your brain needs permission to stop processing data so it can focus on regulating your body. This supports a true resting state, giving you the most accurate data and giving your heart a break. If you are finding that simple changes like this make sense to you, I have more to share on how movement and sleep position play a role. 7. The walk timing. There is a misconception that if you have high blood pressure, you should rest all the time. While rest is important during a specific spike, as we discussed with the zero reset, long-term inactivity is an enemy of blood pressure control. However, the type of activity matters. High-intensity exercise can temporarily raise blood pressure. For seniors, we want gentle, rhythmic movement that encourages circulation without straining the heart. David, 69, fell into the trap of inactivity. After he retired, he spent most of his day in his recliner. He noticed that his legs would swell slightly by the evening, and his blood pressure would be higher at night. The problem was that his blood was pooling. Without the pumping action of the leg muscles, the blood sits in the lower extremities, and the heart has to pump harder to circulate it. The solution is not to join a gym and lift heavy weights. The solution is the 10-minute house walk. Here is the protocol. After every meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, do not sit down immediately. Instead, walk around your house or your garden for just 10 minutes. This should be a slow, leisurely pace. You should be able to breathe easily through your nose the entire time. This gentle walking does two things. First, it activates the muscles in your calves, which act as a second heart, pumping blood back up to your chest. This relieves the burden on your heart. Second, it helps burn off the glucose from your meal, preventing the sugar spike we discussed earlier. David started doing this. He would just do loops around his living room and kitchen while listening to an audiobook or just thinking. He found that his evening leg swelling disappeared and his nighttime blood pressure readings became much more consistent. This is easy on the joints. You don't need special shoes or equipment. You just need to move your body gently to help the hydraulic system of your circulation. Most older adults can try this safely, provided you have good balance. If you are unsteady, you can march in place while holding onto a sturdy countertop. This supports better circulation and helps manage both blood sugar and blood pressure simultaneously. 8. The sleep position. Finally, we must talk about what happens when you are unconscious. You spend roughly 8 hours a night in bed. The position of your body during this time has a profound effect on your morning blood pressure. Many seniors wake up with a headache or high blood pressure in the morning. This is often called the morning surge, and while some rise is natural, an excessive surge can be dangerous. Susan, 71, was waking up with neck pain and high pressure. When I asked about her sleep setup, she told me she used 3 thick pillows to prop her head up because she had some reflux. The problem was that the 3 pillows were pushing her chin down towards her chest. This position can compress the airways, leading to mild sleep apnea or just difficult breathing. When you struggle to breathe at night, your oxygen levels drop. Your brain panics and releases adrenaline to wake you up or to force you to breathe. This adrenaline spike raises your blood pressure while you sleep, and it stays high when you wake up. We needed to fix her alignment. The goal is a neutral neck. If you need to be elevated for reflux, you should elevate the head of the bed or use a wedge pillow that lifts your entire torso, not just your head. Your neck should be in a straight line with your spine, not bent forward or twisted to the side. Susan switched to a wedge pillow that supported her back and shoulders. She also made sure her neck wasn't cricked. She slept better, breathed deeper, and her morning blood pressure readings dropped significantly because her body wasn't fighting for air all night. Check your pillows tonight. Are they forcing your neck into an unnatural angle? If so, try a flatter pillow or a wedge. This supports uninterrupted breathing and a calmer nervous system throughout the night. 9. The thermal defense. As we age, our body's ability to regulate temperature changes. We become less efficient at maintaining heat, and our blood vessels become more reactive to cold. This is a survival mechanism. When cold air hits your skin, your surface blood vessels clamp down instantly, a process called vasoconstriction, to preserve heat for your internal organs. While this keeps you warm, it has a drastic effect on your cardiovascular system. Think of your blood vessels like a garden hose. If you squeeze the hose, the pressure of the water inside shoots up. Cold air squeezes your arteries. For a senior with already stiff arteries, a blast of cold air can cause a sudden, sharp spike in blood pressure that can be dangerous. Let's talk about Harold. Harold is 78 years old. He was diligent about his diet and took his medication, yet he noticed that every winter his numbers would creep up into the 160s. He couldn't figure it out. One morning he measured his pressure at 11 a.m. It was 170/95. He was shocked. We retraced his steps. 10 minutes prior to the measurement, Harold had taken the trash out to the curb. It was 40 degrees outside, and he had only worn a t-shirt because he was only going to be out there for a minute. That 1 minute was enough. The cold shock hit his skin, his sympathetic nervous system fired, his vessels constricted, and his pressure skyrocketed. He came inside, sat down, and measured it while his body was still in that clamped down state. The action here is the thermal buffer. You must treat cold air as a medical trigger. If you are going outside in cold weather, even for 30 seconds to check the mail or let the dog out, you must cover your extremities. Wear a scarf. A large amount of heat is lost through the neck, and the neck is very sensitive to cold triggers. Keep your home temperature stable. If your house is drafty or too cold, your body is constantly working to stay warm, keeping your baseline pressure higher than it needs to be. Harold made a rule. No scarf, no door. He started wearing a fleece jacket and a scarf even for short trips to the mailbox. He also raised his thermostat by 2 degrees during the winter. His unexplained winter hypertension disappeared. His vessels were allowed to remain relaxed because he wasn't shocking them with cold. This is a simple change that protects your heart from unnecessary mechanical stress. 10. The static hold. Most people think exercise for blood pressure means walking, swimming, or cardio, and while those are excellent for long-term health, there is a specific type of exercise that is almost magical for lowering blood pressure in seniors, and it requires no movement at all. It is called isometric exercise. This means contracting a muscle without moving the joint. When you squeeze a muscle and hold it, you temporarily restrict blood flow to that area. When you release it, your body responds by releasing a flood of nitric oxide, a gas that signals your blood vessels to open up wide. It is like flushing the system. Nancy, 73, had severe arthritis in her knees. She couldn't do the 10-minute house walk we discussed earlier without pain. She felt helpless, thinking she couldn't exercise to help her blood pressure. Her sedentary lifestyle was causing her numbers to creep up. I introduced her to the towel squeeze. This is a clinically proven method to lower systolic blood pressure. Here is how you do it. Sit in your firm chair, take a small hand towel and roll it up into a cylinder. Hold it in your right hand. Squeeze the towel as hard as you comfortably can, about 30% to 50% of your maximum strength. You are not trying to crush it, you are just maintaining a firm grip. Hold that squeeze for 2 minutes. This is the critical part. You must breathe normally while you squeeze. Do not hold your breath. If you hold your breath, your blood pressure will rise. Breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth, while keeping that hand squeezed. After 2 minutes, let go. Rest for 1 minute. Then switch to the left hand and squeeze for 2 minutes. Nancy did this routine 3 times a week while watching her favorite show. It took her about 15 minutes total. After 4 weeks, her resting systolic blood pressure dropped by 12 points. She hadn't run a mile, she hadn't stressed her knees, but she had used the biology of her muscles to release nitric oxide and widen her arteries. This is easy on the joints and acts as a natural vasodilator. However, a safety note: if you have uncontrolled high blood pressure, over 180/110, do not start isometric exercises without talking to your doctor first, as the temporary squeeze does raise pressure slightly during the exercise before lowering it significantly after. 11. The strain avoidance. We must discuss a topic that many doctors skip because it is uncomfortable, but it is a major cause of fainting and strokes in the bathroom for seniors. This is the Valsalva maneuver. The Valsalva maneuver happens when you take a deep breath, close your airway, and push, like when you are straining to have a bowel movement. When you do this, you create massive pressure in your chest. This pressure reduces blood flow back to the heart. When you stop straining and take a breath, the blood rushes back into the heart, causing a rapid, dangerous spike in blood pressure. Frank, 80, was finding that his morning readings were erratic. Sometimes they were low, sometimes very high. He also mentioned feeling dizzy in the mornings. It turned out Frank was dealing with chronic constipation. Every morning he was straining in the bathroom. This physical effort was sending his blood pressure on a roller coaster ride before he even had breakfast. The bathroom safety protocol is essential for blood pressure stability. First, you must ensure you are not constipated. This connects back to our earlier points about hydration and diet. Are you drinking your water? Are you eating enough fiber? A simple bowl of oatmeal or adding chia seeds to your yogurt can make a tremendous difference. Second, you must never hold your breath while on the toilet. It sounds simple, but it is a habit. If you find yourself straining, stop, breathe out, exhale through your mouth. Frank started taking a magnesium supplement, which we will discuss next, and increased his fiber intake. The straining stopped, his morning dizziness vanished, and his blood pressure stabilized because he wasn't subjecting his heart to that violent pressure change every morning. This supports a safe start to your day and prevents one of the most common triggers for senior fainting spells. 12. The magnesium soothe. We discussed potassium in part 1 as the mineral that flushes out sodium. Now we must introduce its partner, magnesium. Magnesium is the relaxation mineral. It is responsible for relaxing the smooth muscles that line your blood vessels. If you are deficient in magnesium, and many seniors are because absorption decreases with age, your blood vessels remain in a slightly contracted, tight state. This keeps your pressure elevated. Margaret, 76, suffered from leg cramps at night and high blood pressure during the day. She was eating bananas for potassium, but the cramps persisted. I explained to Margaret that leg cramps are often a sign of magnesium deficiency, and if her leg muscles were cramping, her blood vessel muscles were likely tight too. We looked at her diet. She wasn't eating many leafy greens or nuts. The action step is to introduce magnesium-rich foods into your daily routine. Dark leafy greens like spinach and Swiss chard are excellent. Pumpkin seeds are a powerhouse of magnesium. Dark chocolate, in moderation with high cocoa content and low sugar, is also a source. Margaret started adding a handful of pumpkin seeds to her morning oatmeal and having a side of spinach with her dinner. Within 2 weeks, the leg cramps disappeared. More importantly, her blood pressure readings softened. The tension was gone from her system. You can take supplements, but you must be careful. Some forms of magnesium can cause loose stools. Magnesium glycinate is often the best form for seniors, as it is gentle on the stomach and highly absorbable. However, always check with your doctor before adding supplements, especially if you have kidney issues. This supports muscle relaxation throughout the entire body, allowing your arteries to expand naturally. 13. The timing switch. Finally, we arrive at the most powerful lever regarding your medication, if you take it. This is not about changing your dose, but changing when you take it. Our bodies run on a circadian rhythm. Naturally, blood pressure should dip at night while you sleep. We call people whose pressure drops at night dippers. This is healthy. However, many seniors become non-dippers, meaning their pressure stays high all night. This is risky because it means the heart never gets a rest. Bill, 72, was taking all 3 of his blood pressure medications at 8 a.m. with his breakfast. His morning pressure was okay, but his evening and morning readings were creeping up. He was a non-dipper. I suggested he speak to his primary care physician about chronotherapy, the science of timing. A major study called the Hygia chronotherapy trial suggested that taking blood pressure medication at bedtime could be significantly more effective for preventing heart events than taking it in the morning. Bill asked his doctor, "Can I take one of my pills at night instead of the morning?" His doctor agreed to try it. By moving one medication to bedtime, Bill ensured that he had coverage through the night. His body began to dip again during sleep. He woke up with lower numbers, and his overall average dropped. The action step here is a conversation. Do not change your medication schedule on your own, but at your next appointment, ask your doctor, "Would taking my blood pressure medication at night help control my morning numbers better?" For many seniors, this simple switch of timing, costing $0, is more effective than adding a new pill. This supports 24-hour control and protects your heart while you sleep. Conclusion. We have journeyed through 13 powerful, scientifically grounded steps. We started with the emergency protocols, the zero reset to ensure you aren't scaring yourself with fake numbers, the exhale technique to instantly calm your nervous system, the water glass to thin your blood, and the potassium snack to flush out sodium. These are your fire extinguishers. Keep them ready. We moved into the lifestyle foundations, breaking the sugar connection to stop insulin from raising your pressure, creating a silent environment to rest your senses, using the 10-minute walk to aid circulation, and fixing your sleep position to ensure oxygen flow. These are your walls and your roof, the structure of your health. And finally, we addressed the hidden triggers, the thermal defense against the cold, the isometric squeeze to release nitric oxide, the bathroom safety to prevent dangerous straining, the magnesium intake to relax your vessels, and the medication timing to optimize your body's rhythm. You do not need to do all 13 things perfectly starting tomorrow. That is a recipe for stress, and stress is the enemy. Start with the one that resonated most with you. Maybe it's the water. Maybe it's the breathing. Maybe it's checking your pillow height. Master one habit, then add another. Remember, high blood pressure in your 60s, 70s, or 80s is not a personal failure. It is often just a sign that your body needs a different kind of support than it did when you were 40. You are not fighting your body, you are partnering with it. You are listening to its signals, whether it's thirst, cold, or tension, and responding with wisdom. I'm Dr. Ben Harris. It has been a privilege to share this roadmap with you. If you found these tools helpful, please comment below which one you are going to try first. I read the comments and love seeing you take control of your health. And if you know a friend, a sibling, or a spouse who worries about their numbers, please share this video with them. You might just save them a trip to the emergency room. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next deep dive into senior health. Until then, breathe deep, stay hydrated, and take care of your heart.